Hello everyone. Thank you all for watching the video and leaving such thoughtful comments. Wishing everyone lots of health and peace. Early in the morning, the pale sunlight trickled through the gaps in the thatched roof, rousing Diep from a restless sleep filled with nightmares of captivity and eerie whispers. She hadn't had time to shake off her exhaustion, her eyes still teary, when her mother-in-law, wearing a displeased expression, her sharp eyes like daggers and her lips curled in disdain, stood at the door growling, "Diep, hurry up and get ready. Come with me to the market to buy new clothes for me and Nom. Wear something decent and go right now. Don't dawdle." Diep didn't understand why she had to go, but her mother-in-law's glare felt like a threat, leaving her no choice but to obey. She hastily slipped on her faded long dress and wrapped the colorful scarf around her head, the only remnant of her lost youth, now tattered like her own life. On the dusty village path, Diep trailed behind her mother-in-law, the suffocating feeling still enveloping her, as if an invisible chain still bound her despite leaving her husband's house. When they reached the market, they entered a vibrant clothing stall, referred to images of the bustling market with crowded stalls and the hum of buyers and sellers. Diep secretly hoped to pick out a new outfit for herself, a tiny glimmer of light in her dark existence, but her mother-in-law quickly handed her a tattered, torn shirt, ripped in a long gash as if to etch her contempt deeper. "This is what you deserve. Don't even dream of anything else, you pitiful wretch." The injustice plunged Diep into sadness, tears streaming down her face, but she remained silent, her frail shoulders trembling under an invisible burden. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed from a corner of the market. The sound of soft footsteps mingled with a chilling whisper, like a threat from an unseen presence. Diep spun around, her heart pounding, but saw only the crowd, leaving behind an uneasy feeling, as if a shadow was lurking, watching her every step. Viewers are left curious. Could someone be following her? Or is it just the delusion of a soul pushed to the brink of despair? While Diep and her mother-in-law struggled at the market, Nom, Diep's ex-husband, swayed drunkenly in a small roadside tavern, the pungent smell of alcohol wafting from his breath, a clear sign of the destruction eating away at his every cell. Harsh sunlight streamed through the window, but Nom's bloodshot eyes were hazy, his mind numbed, as if submerged in the darkness of loneliness and hatred. He downed glass after glass, muttering, "Diep, you useless woman, abandoning me, leaving me in misery like this. This liquor will help me forget." The years of solitude since Diep left had driven Nom to drown himself in alcohol, seeking to escape his pain and self-destruction, each drop eroding his humanity, leaving behind an empty shell. The tavern was quiet, with only a few passers-by stopping in, but Nom found no solace, just the mocking laughter of other drunks in the corner, fueling his bitterness. He slammed the bottle onto the table, the shattering sound echoing like a declaration of collapse, shards of glass rolling across the floor, glinting like fragments of his shattered memories. Suddenly, a shadowy figure slipped past the tavern's entrance. The crunch of dry leaves underfoot mingled with the wind whistling through the trees, sounding like a warning from an unseen force. Nom looked up, his voice suspicious. "Who's there? Show yourself." But only darkness answered, making him shiver despite the alcohol clouding his mind. A stranger in the corner, a man in a black shirt, eyes cold and sharp, carrying the scent of tobacco and danger, watched Nom before silently slipping away, leaving an eerie chill, as if a dark force was tracking him, ready to strike. Viewers sense Nom's decline but also grow curious about the stranger, possibly an accomplice in a sinister plot involving Diep or James. After shopping, Diep's mother-in-law led her to a small, well-known pho stall near the market, barking an order at the vendor with a sneer. "Give me a bowl of pho with plenty of beef, but for Diep, just a plain bowl. No meat, no herbs. She doesn't deserve it." Diep sat across from her, staring at the empty bowl before her, tears streaming down her face, though she tried to hold them back, her trembling hands clutching the chopsticks as if they were the last thread keeping her from breaking. Her mother-in-law ate heartily, the sound of her slurping soup blending with a mocking laugh. "There, you should know your place. Don't even think about anything better." Diep nibbled at each spoonful of pho, her stomach growling with hunger, but the humiliation weighed heavier than the hunger, like an invisible burden pressing on her heart. Her eyes drifted to the door, where sunlight spilled in, reminding her of the fragile freedom she craved, yet seemed too lavish a dream to touch. But suddenly, a strange noise came from a corner of the stall, the scrape of a wooden chair, followed by a raspy whisper, like a threat from someone lurking nearby. Diep flinched, her heart racing, but saw only the crowd of diners, leaving behind a creeping unease. A stranger in the corner, a man in black, eyes icy and dangerous, carrying the scent of tobacco and menace, stared at Diep before vanishing, sending a shiver down her spine. Viewers feel the brutal discrimination but also grow curious about the stranger, possibly an agent of a dark force stalking her, tied to James, or a looming mystery. Diep stepped out of the stall, shoulders weighed down, but her eyes lit up when she spotted James, the man who once made promises, walking along the village path, his dirty shirt crumpled but his gaze burning with determination, like a flicker of hope in the darkness. James rushed over, grasping Diep's hand, his voice trembling with emotion. "Diep, are you okay? I've been searching for you through countless sleepless nights, every dream calling your name." Diep, stunned, tears streaming down her face, whispered, "James, you're still here? I can't bear it anymore. Everything's too overwhelming." But her mother-in-law charged forward, yanking Diep's hand back, snarling, "Who are you to touch my family? Get lost or I'll call the police." James stepped back, voice pained. "Ma'am, I just want to help her. I can't stand by and watch anymore." Her mother-in-law scoffed, pointing at him. "You have nothing left, you broke wretch. Don't even think of touching Diep unless you bring 500 million VND. Suddenly, a man in black, a hitman James had secretly hired to monitor the mother-in-law, emerged from the crowd, his menacing gaze fixed on her, making her tremble yet maintaining a defiant front. James silently signaled for the man to retreat, but the tension thickened, the wind howling through the fields like a warning of a dark plot unfolding. The hitman stepped back, but a glint flashed from the knife tucked at his hip, reflecting the sunlight, a stark reminder of the violence lurking nearby. The mother-in-law, though trying to stay strong, stole a frightened glance at the man, her trembling hand clutching the shopping bag tightly, as if she knew she was facing a force beyond her control. James, caught between determination and dread over the consequences of hiring the hitman, bit his lip hard, turning away but with a fiery gaze, already plotting a larger confrontation. A strange noise, footsteps crunching leaves nearby, made Diep flinch, but she saw nothing, only darkness, fueling viewer suspense about James's next move and the looming threat from the hitman, who might betray him or spiral everything into disaster. James couldn't accept defeat. He dialed frantically, his voice urgent. "Hello, lawyer, I need help. There's a woman being illegally detained." At the same time, he contacted the local police, requesting intervention. But the mother-in-law demanded 500 million VND, forcing James to act swiftly. Secretly, he reached out to a gang of hitmen, men he'd worked with in the past, asking them to track, intimidate the mother-in-law, and even plan a kidnapping if all else failed, all while keeping it hidden from the police to avoid legal trouble, creating inner turmoil for James. He arrived at Diep's father's house, where aging buffalo grazed peacefully in the pen, referred to images of rural fields, their mournful mooing echoing. Diep's father, sorrowful, trembled as he spoke. "James, are you serious? Sell 5 buffalo to ransom Diep? But our family depends on them. This is our last asset." James took the father's hand, his gaze resolute. "Sir, I can't let Diep suffer any longer. I'll make it up to you, trust me." They led the buffalo to sell, hearts heavy but hopeful. A shadowy figure passed by the path, the crunch of dry leaves, and a hitman in black appeared, nodding to James, quickly discussing the next step. But as the hitman turned away, a flash gleamed from the knife he carried. A chilling detail, leaving viewers curious about the risk of failure or betrayal from James's own ally. While leading the buffalo, James received a menacing call from the hitman. "If you don't pay an extra 50 million, we'll handle the mother-in-law our way. Blood might spill." James paled but tried to stay calm, promising to find a way, torn between protecting Diep and risking descent into crime. The distant wail of police sirens made him jump, fearing his plan might be exposed, adding crushing pressure. Meanwhile, the hitman whispered to another shadowy figure nearby, hinting at a double-cross, their eyes glinting with greed. Viewers are gripped, wondering about James's dark scheme, the threat of betrayal or legal pursuit that could trap him in a dead end. James, the police, and Diep's father brought 500 million VND to the mother-in-law's house. But beforehand, James's hitmen had secretly threatened her, leaving a bloodstained note on the door with the words 500 million or your life, terrifying her, though she maintained a tough exterior. The mother-in-law accepted the money, her voice bitter. Fine, but I never want to see her face again. Diep emerged, cradling a small dog that had followed her all night. A miraculous symbol of hope, its bright eyes seeming to understand her pain. She wept, hugging the dog. Thank you, everyone. This dog, it's like a miracle staying with me through the darkest night. James led Diep to the forest, to the abandoned house. Exhausted, Diep collapsed, gasping. James, I can't go on. I'm too tired, and I'm scared that Shadow is still following me. James called a doctor, anxiously tending to her. But during the examination, the doctor found fresh bruises on Diep's neck, possibly from the mother-in-law before releasing her, and a strange, small cut like a knife mark, raising suspicions of an attacker. That evening, James cleaned the bruises, cooked dinner, his gaze full of tenderness. Don't worry, I'll protect you. But as they ate, the crunch of dry leaves came from outside. Shadowy figure passed the window, a knife glinting in its hand. Diep gasped. Who's there? It's that Shadow again. James gripped her hand, his eyes resolute yet worried, but suddenly, a raspy laugh echoed from the forest. Was it the hitman or someone else lurking? The hitman stepped out of the darkness, his sly eyes gleaming, closing in on the house, but James blocked him, growling. I've paid enough, what more do you want? The hitman sneered, shaking his head. Not enough, I want another 100 million. Or, you know the consequences. Diep trembled, clutching the dog, which suddenly barked loudly, as if warning of a greater threat. James clenched his fists, ready to confront, but the knife's gleam froze them both. Distant police sirens wailed, making the hitman flee, leaving behind a new blood-stained note. I'll be back. The dog growled, its eyes fixed on the darkness, hinting at another presence. Viewers are left on edge, wondering about the looming mystery, tied to James's plot, the hitman's betrayal, or a new sinister force rising.